My husband insisted on going hiking in the scorching heat, but this time I didn't go with him. I only bought him accidental insurance in advance and stayed home alone enjoying the air conditioning. In my past life, I couldn't resist his persistent pestering and went hiking with him. Then, huge boulders suddenly tumbled down the mountain. To save him, I pushed him away with all my strength, but I was hit by a boulder, suffering severe abdominal injuries and permanent disability in one leg. He vowed to repay me for saving his life and take good care of me forever, but then he immediately contacted a lawyer to ask how to make me return the 80,000 yuan bride price. He even tried to take sole ownership of the fruit shop we co-opened. His reason was that my abdominal injury had left me unable to bear children, so I couldn't continue his family line. I went to confront him, and he even denied the fact that I had saved his life. He also blamed me for taking him climbing in the first place, saying the accident was all my fault. When I opened my eyes again, I was reborn. On the day he suggested going climbing, Gu Lin hugged my arm and shook it. Honey, let's just go climbing once. I heard that on those mountains, there are rosy clouds and mist, making for an absolutely breathtaking view. I looked down at my right leg. The hideous scar was gone. My stomach no longer ached faintly. Gu Lin was also still alive. With his right leg intact, he hadn't managed to convince me in the end, but when he learned that I was allowing him to go hiking alone, he was both surprised and overjoyed. He even kissed me on the forehead. Thank you, dear, you're so good to me, I sneered, but inside, a mix of emotions churned. She secretly bought him only a deluxe premium accident insurance, quietly waiting for a huge payout to arrive. In my past life, immersed in the sweetness of my new marriage, I agreed to go out with Gu Lin despite the scorching heat. Halfway up the mountain, a massive boulder suddenly tumbled down. It happened so suddenly there was no time to dodge. At that critical moment, disregarding my own safety, I pushed Gu Lin away with all my strength. That accident caused severe abdominal injuries and left me unable to bear children. My right leg was also crushed by the boulder, leaving me permanently disabled. Gu Lin escaped disaster, suffering only minor scrapes on his arm at first. He held my severely injured body in his arms and wept with genuine sorrow. He also vowed that he would take good care of me for the rest of his life, never leaving me even if I could never get out of bed. I initially believed him, until I discovered that his words and actions did not match. During my hospitalization, he only paid 20,000 yuan when helping me check in. The remaining medical expenses, over 200,000 yuan, were all covered by my parents' savings. After I was hospitalized, he showed up less and less frequently. Whenever I called, he would complain to me about being busy with work, while also blaming me for making him work overtime every day. I initially felt guilty, until I received a private message from a kind-hearted netizen that was a clip from a live stream. Gu Lin appeared in the live stream of a well-known internet lawyer. He asked the lawyer how to make me return his 80,000 yuan betrothal gift and how he could keep the fruit shop we co-invested in all to himself. I was so angry that my whole body trembled, as if my blood had frozen. I forwarded the video to Gu Lin and asked him for an explanation too. Not only did he have no shame, but he also turned around and bit back. If you hadn't insisted on traveling, would any of this have happened? Your misfortune is entirely your own doing and has nothing to do with me. Are you trying to drag me down for the rest of your life? I was so angry that I fainted. My mother, feeling sorry for me, went to their home to help me get justice, but my mother-in-law accused me of being a hen that can't lay eggs. My mother, unable to take it, slapped her. She then called the police and had my mother arrested. Gu Lin called me again. When I picked up, he screamed hysterically, "Mo Shui, have you no shame? You actually sent your mother to come and insult my mother, and now my mother is sick from anger. If you have any sense, you'll come with me today to get a divorce. You walk away with nothing, or don't blame me for taking your mother to court." I gave a cold laugh and said, "Fine, come pick me up at my place, let's go get a divorce. I've lived more than a year of this dark, hopeless life, and I've had more than enough. Since he wants a divorce, I'll grant his wish. I don't want anything, only for him to die." He opened the door and came in. The room was empty. I hid behind the door, gripped one end of my cane, and swung it hard at the back of his head to be safe. I had practiced this move hundreds of times. Failing that, I could throw my whole body onto him and knock him down. Luckily, I succeeded on the first try. He slammed face first onto the floor and lost consciousness. I leisurely took out the prepared boning knife. I furiously hacked at his thigh. Over the past year, I had been using my arm to carry things every day. My biceps became increasingly robust. With just a few forceful hacks, I cut off his entire right leg. Blood splattered onto my lips, and I gave a sweet smile. Gu Lin was jolted awake by the excruciating pain, only to find his hands tied behind his back, bound tightly. I took his leg and deliberately waved it in front of his eyes. He let out a scream, his face turning pale with fear, as he begged nonstop, "Shui, I was wrong, spare me, and let's live a good life together. Alright, you've already cut off one of my legs, we're even." I lifted his chin with my hand and pointed the blade between his legs, sneering. I said, "How can we be even? You're still capable of having children, honey, what if we were the same? So you won't despise me anymore." He was furious with humiliation. "Mo. Shu-Ching, you lunatic, if you dare touch me, you'll die a horrible death." I said nothing, just swung the knife and castrated him. He let out a blood-curdling scream, finding a sudden burst of strength from somewhere. He slammed into me headfirst, breaking free from the ropes. He snatched his severed manhood and ran off, hopping on one foot, leaning on my cane. I limped after him. My hand was clenched tightly around the still dripping knife. 3. The moment I opened the door, my mother-in-law saw her son's miserable state. Beside herself with grief, she turned on me and cursed loudly, "You heartless, jinxing bastard, a hen that can't lay eggs, look what you've done to my precious boy." Oh, my poor, suffering son. I didn't talk back, just silently clenched my jaw, ready to gather my strength. Gu Lin thought he had found his savior when he saw his mother. He scrambled desperately toward her. I couldn't be bothered to chase him anymore. Drawing my arm back, I aimed the knife at his heart and hurled it. The sharp boning knife pierced his heart. Gu Lin fell right in front of his mother, his eyes wide open in death. The old woman watched with her own eyes as I stabbed her son to death. She was so terrified that she lost her mind and went insane. I walked up to the rooftop and jumped off, ending my painful and absurd life unexpectedly. With that leap, I was reborn. In my previous life, Gu Lin and I went hiking, and it led to me being crippled for life. He even went on blind dates arranged by his family while I was hospitalized, shirking his responsibility to care for me, trying to divorce me so I would leave with nothing in this lifetime. It seems our life scripts are about to be swapped. Gu Lin, I can't wait to see what you're really like when the whip lands on you. For I specifically reminded Gu Lin to leave home early in the morning, just like in the previous life. Gu Lin left home on time at 7 in the morning to go hiking. I went back to sleep for a while. I slept until past 9. Suddenly, someone pounded on the door so loudly it shook the room. When I checked my phone, I saw that Gu Lin had called me a dozen times and sent countless messages. I wasn't in a hurry to answer the door. Instead, I played the first voice message. Gu Lin's panicked voice came through. "Honey, I had an accident on the mountain. Please send someone to save me." Hilarious. If you had an accident, shouldn't you call 120? What's the point of telling me? The knocking continued. Annoyed, I opened the door. She met her mother-in-law's furious, bloodshot eyes. "Your husband is about to be stoned to death, and you're lazing around at home." With that, she reached out to hit me. I had anticipated this and dodged right away. She stumbled, slammed into the iron door herself, and blood gushed from her nose. "Oh my, Mom, why are you only telling me now that Gu Lin is in trouble? Hurry, take me to the hospital." She wanted to go inside to find something to wipe her nosebleed, but I grabbed her and dragged her away. Along the way, he could only cover his nose with one hand while giving me directions. He had no free hand to cause me any trouble. Gu Lin's injuries were not as severe as I had anticipated. Only, just like in my previous life, he lost the ability to have children, and on top of that, his right leg was broken. After the surgery, the doctor earnestly told me, "The patient's injuries are quite serious, so be mindful of your approach when communicating. Try not to bring up any words that might upset the patient. It is not conducive to the recovery from the injury." I nodded repeatedly in agreement. I also strictly followed the doctor's orders and asked Gu Lin with concern as soon as I entered the ward, "Honey, I heard a rock hit you down there. Can we still have children in the future? You know, my mom has always wanted a granddaughter. If she finds out you can't have kids anymore, she'll definitely come to the hospital and make a scene." In my previous life, I had just finished surgery. The moment my mother-in-law found out I couldn't have children, she immediately kicked up a fuss, demanding that Gu Lin divorce me. She even berated me, calling me a hen that can't lay eggs. Gu Lin stood by silently, letting his mother throw a tantrum in the hospital room. I got so angry that I strained my wound and ended up staying in the hospital for another half a month. Taking advantage of my severe injury, he secretly went along with the blind dates his mother arranged for him. This time, the tables are about to turn. 5. Gu Lin's face turned livid with rage at me. My mother-in-law overheard what I said. Instantly, she flew into a rage, pointing at my nose. She yelled at me, "You shameless fox with that hangdog look. My son isn't even dead yet, and you're already thinking about that business. Have you no shame?" I wasn't angry at all. I simply argued on reasonable grounds. "Mom, what's so shameful about having a child? Everyone is doing it of their own free will. Besides, you yourself were born out of such an act, when you and my father-in-law Conceived my husband, was Gu Lin's grandmother beside you pushing his butt back and forth. After hearing this, her eyes widened in disbelief, her face flushed with shame as she fled. I turned my gaze to Gu Lin. He was now covered from head to toe in bandages. Unable to move, I deliberately reached for his belt. Honey, let me see how badly you're hurt. He panicked. He struggled to sit up, accidentally pulling at the wound. Blood seeped through the white bandage on his thigh. I blinked, covered my mouth, and put on an innocent look. Oh dear, it's bleeding. I'll call the doctor for you. I pressed the call bell by the bed and left the room. Sitting on a seat in the corridor, I started calling for backup. After I had rehearsed my lines with my mom, she rushed to the hospital room in a hurry. Seeing her arrive, my mother-in-law couldn't wait to run over and tattle to my mom. My dear-in-law, your Shui has become absolutely lawless. Gu Lin has just been hospitalized, and she's already saying my son can't have children. On top of that, she's insisting on a divorce. If you don't discipline her soon, she'll dare to go out and make a cuckold of my son tomorrow. But instead of the scolding she expected from me, my mom didn't say a word against me. Instead, he rolled up his sleeves and sneered loudly outside the hospital room. I heard your son's root is broken. What's the difference between a man who can't father children and a eunuch from the Qing dynasty? It's bad enough that he looks like a coward, and now he's just left with no balls. My daughter is supposed to give me a granddaughter in the future. How could she be tied to a mule that can't even breed? If you ask me, they should get divorced today. Save him from holding my daughter back. 6. My mother-in-law's face turned red and pale by turns. She was just about to retort when she suddenly realized that her own son was now a damaged good. Having no leverage to argue with my mother, she could only swallow her anger in silence, forcing a smile that was uglier than crying. She tried to persuade my mother. Dear-in-law, how can we presume to make decisions for the young couple? Besides, they are still in the honeymoon phase. Their relationship is doing well, so how can they get a divorce now? After saying that, she turned to me again. Shu Qing, your mother was too blunt just now. Don't take it to heart. I'm giving you this bracelet. You two listen to your mother. Get along well from now on. She slipped the solid gold bracelet from her wrist onto mine. I hadn't expected that what I'd longed for in my past life would come so easily in this one. People really are pathetic that way. Before I officially joined the family, Gu Lin's mother had already made a public statement. She would pass down her gold bangle to her daughter-in-law on the wedding day. But even after Gu Lin and I got married, she still didn't give me the bangle. At first, I thought she simply forgot in the rush, so I gently reminded her at the wedding. Instead, she acted as if she had caught me in a misstep and scolded me loudly in front of the guests. She's not even officially part of the family yet, and already she's eyeing her mother-in-law's gold bangle. Gu Lin, this is the fine wife you've married. The guests began gossiping about me, and the atmosphere turned very awkward. That embarrassing experience became a thorn in my side. It even made me doubt myself. Had I, as a daughter-in-law, done something to offend her, that she would go out of her way to humiliate me in public? Later, what actually happened taught me something. There was nothing wrong with me. She was simply being spiteful. I sold that bracelet online. I ended up with over 10,000 yuan for nothing. At the same time, I immediately reported the case to the insurance company and had the accident assessed as early as possible. Gu Lin's condition qualifies as accidental disability. I purchased the Supreme Deluxe insurance plan, which has a very high coverage amount. According to their claim standards, I can get at least 1 million in compensation with the over 10,000 yuan I got from selling the gold bangle. I booked a luxury cruise trip for my parents. In my previous life, my parents also suffered greatly because of this terrible marriage. I ended my own life hastily before I could take care of them and let them enjoy a better life. In hindsight, it's full of regrets. If I don't spend the money from selling the gold bangle, it will become joint marital property, so I might as well let my parents have a good time with it. I have no companions, as there are more important matters waiting for me. In this life I will not only take back everything that belongs to me but also make Gu Lin leave with nothing, give him a taste of his own medicine, make him experience the pain and despair I felt during my hospitalization. 7. While I was busy working at the fruit shop, my mother-in-law kept calling to urge me, your husband is in the hospital, and you still have the nerve to worry about some fruit shop. Get over here and take care of him now. I made excuses again and again, until Gu Lin's phone call came through. Mo Shui, are you only going to come claim my body after I'm dead? We're legally married, you have a duty to take care of me. Understand, my mother is so old, and you make her stay up all night at the hospital every day. What kind of nonsense is that? See, men always have this arrogant, blind self-importance that fails to see the real situation. Even if he's lying in a hospital bed right now, half paralyzed, he still has the confidence to boss me around. If I had even half his assertiveness in my past life, I probably wouldn't have ended up so miserably. I pretended to be weak and softened my tone. Sorry, honey. Our fruit shop has been doing too well lately. I really can't get away. We can't ask your mom to come do all this heavy work. Don't worry. I've hired a caregiver to come help you. Let her take turns with our mom looking after you, starting now. I don't want any caregiver. Don't you understand plain speech? You right now. He was just too noisy. I couldn't stand listening long enough to finish the call. I'm not as stingy as Gulin in the previous life. When he wanted me to leave with nothing, he opted for a free lawyer consultation hotline. I have a high school classmate working at a prestigious law firm in Lou City specializing in divorce cases. Even though we hadn't seen each other for many years and our relationship had long grown distant, she still received me very warmly. Adult socializing is essentially an exchange of interests and value. We have a class group chat where she often posts divorce cases that I once found extremely melodramatic, now reflected in my own past experience. They somehow no longer feel that way. I am even confident that I could land a headline feature on their public account. After entering her office, she had her assistant pour me a cup of hot tea. I got straight to the point. My husband is disabled. How can I make him leave the marriage with nothing? She was, after all, a lawyer. Accustomed to high-stakes situations, faced with my overly blunt and seemingly morally bankrupt opening, she didn't show much shock, just asked me to provide detailed information about my marital and financial status. After I laid out the specific circumstances, she fell into a brief silence. After a moment of thought, she said to me with a smile tinged with a hint of apology, Shuyi, given your situation, winning a divorce case will be difficult. Your husband is disabled, which puts him in a vulnerable position. Moreover, he has no fault in the marriage. Even if you win, the most the court can do is grant the divorce, but you won't have the advantage when it comes to property. The court might even award more to your husband. I asked in confusion. You mean he has to be the one to make a mistake first? Only then is it possible for him to leave with nothing, right? No, it doesn't necessarily have to be a mistake. In short, you need to prove that your marriage has irretrievably broken down. My advice is to start living separately from your husband, but the separation needs to last a full year. During this period, there cannot be frequent emotional exchanges, and even if there are, they must reflect a breakdown in the relationship. I shook my head helplessly. It can't be dragged out this long. That's too long. Isn't there a quicker way? Attorney Lou handed me a business card. I'm sorry. Unless both parties are willing to divorce, otherwise, there's really no way to speed this up. This is my friend's business card. You can go find her and give it a try. Seeing my puzzled look, she handed me a business card from the head of a matchmaking agency. Then she gave me another meaningful glance. It hit me like a thunderbolt. Since the normal path won't work, I'll have to find a different way. I went to that matchmaking agency. After explaining my intentions to the person in charge, the situation quickly took a turn for the better. Hong Jia, the manager, placed a stack of documents in front of me. Lounging boldly in the armchair with her arms spread wide, she said in a tone of rare curiosity, "This is the first time I've seen a wife looking for a mistress for her own husband. You're quite something." I gave an awkward smile and quickly zeroed in on one woman from that pile of information. According to Hong Jia, this woman is a notorious serial homewrecker. She is a premium member of our organization. She is dead set on landing a diamond bachelor. Your husband really needs a better image, otherwise, he won't even catch her eye. The woman in the photo has shoulder-length curly hair and stylish French bangs. Her makeup is delicate but not harsh. Her smile is as gentle as water, with a faint dimple on her right cheek. She looks exactly like Gu Lin's dream girl. After I wrote down her phone number, I called her immediately. The woman's name was Wu Yen, 27 years old, unmarried, unemployed. I arranged to meet her at the coffee shop downstairs from the hospital. She wore a pink puff-sleeved peplum dress and white stilettos. Her features were gentle and sweet. Her whole body exuded a cloying, cheap perfume scent. The fragrance coats every single strand of hair. She walked with a slight sway of her hips, drawing sideways glances from many customers, not to mention men. Even I felt a bit dizzy watching her. After she sat down, I gave her the carefully prepared luxury brand bag. It was obvious those old men usually never gave her anything nice. The young girl had only received a basic model bag, yet she excitedly grabbed my hand. "Sis, you're so sweet. Although I don't like women, I'm willing to try changing my sexual orientation for you." Startled, I quickly pulled my hand back, showing her a photo of Gu Lin. "Within a month, win this man over, make him willing to leave his wife and give up everything for you. After you succeed, I'll give you 100,000. She suddenly wiped the smile off her face. Sitting up straight, she frowned and said, "He's too ugly, so you'll need to pay extra." We spoke at the same time. I Shouted, 150,000, she said, 110,000, she, 150,000, deal, I said, fine, as long as you can pull it off, I'll transfer the 150,000 directly to your card. She beamed from ear to ear, patted her chest, and assured me, don't worry, I guarantee I'll get the job done. Her behavior was innocently foolish, just like a college student. I was actually quite uneasy about it, but after I took her to the hospital, she proved through her actions how thoroughly she understood man 9. I sent Wu Yan into Gu Lin's hospital room under the guise of being a caregiver. She stood behind me. Before Gu Lin even saw anyone, he heard that I had brought a caregiver to look after him. He shouted loudly, telling people to get out. He became so agitated that his face turned bright red. Mo Shui, is this how you half-heartedly take care of me? I'm lying in bed now, unable to move freely. What if the caregiver has a grudge against me and hits me? I don't care. I don't want some damn caregiver. You have to stay and take care of me yourself. Tell her to get lost. I silently stepped aside and nudged Wu Yan toward the hospital bed as she wiped her tears, looking so pitiful that she tugged at the heartstrings. Coming into Gu Lin's line of sight, the noisy protests around suddenly fell silent. Wu Yan suddenly knelt by the bed and pleaded, her voice choked with sobs. Please, let me stay and take care of you. I'll come whenever you call, and I definitely won't hit anyone. Someone in my family is seriously ill and needs expensive medication, and I also have to pay for my younger brother's tuition. I had a hard time finding this job. Please, I beg you, let me stay. Gu Lin's expression tightened, and he reached out with a pained heart to help the pitiful girl kneeling on the floor. The hostility from just a moment ago had completely dissipated. Intentionally playing hard to get, I said in a light, airy tone, I only agreed to let this girl work as a caregiver because I felt sorry for her. Since you don't want her, I'll have no choice but to fire her. With that, I took Wu Yan by the hand and headed out the door. Wu Yan absolutely refused to get up. She clung to Gu Lin's leg, crying herself hoarse. The situation was getting a bit out of control. Only then did Gu Lin pretend to speak reluctantly. Don't, I'll pay you back. Alright, you can leave someone here to take care of me, but you can't just disappear every day. You must come by every day to supervise her. I hummed softly in agreement. Ever since then, I would go to the hospital every evening after work. The purpose was not to visit Gu Lin, but to have Wu Yan report on her progress. On her first day of work, Wu Yan was still wearing a white uniform. The overly loose long sleeves and pants gave no hint of her good figure. That night, as she was pouring hot water for Gu Lin from a thermos, the lid, not fastened tightly, suddenly fell off. Scalding water splashed onto her thigh. She winced sharply from the pain. Gu Lin therefore excused her from the requirement to wear work attire. When she reported this to me, I couldn't help but remark, you don't have to be so hard on yourself. I'm not covering your medical expenses, you know. She pulled up her pant leg and gave me a bright smile. See, I just used makeup to create this. The water bottle is filled with warm water. It's not hot at all. The reason I did this was to get physical contact with him as soon as possible. Physical closeness can quickly bridge psychological distance. Sure enough, at first he resisted my help with changing his dressing. In just one evening, the problem was solved. I clapped my hands and gave her a thumbs up. You're awesome. 10. Gu Lin and Wu Yan's relationship was rapidly drawing closer, at a pace I could clearly perceive. I could tell from how much time I spent with him on each hospital visit. As a single straw can show which way the wind blows, a small part can suggest the whole. The first week, every time I went to the hospital, Gu Lin would pull me aside and pour out his grievances. It wasn't that the hospital food was too bad. He would complain about how he was tormented by the pain. He would always confide in me until late at night, telling me every little thing, like a baby not yet weaned. I was so busy at the fruit shop every day, my head spinning, that I had no heart to listen to his complaints. Though he sat by his bedside, she couldn't bring herself to listen to a word of his complaints. Her thoughts followed the wild geese passing by the window and drifted far away. She was pondering how to spend the 1.5 million from the insurance payout and how to come up with plausible excuses to transfer the fruit shop to her own name. Gu Lin, seeing that she hadn't responded for a while, shook her shoulder and said, Honey, are you even listening to me? That lousy supervisor of ours is trying to force me to resign because of my hospitalization. He said if I didn't get back to work, the company would fire me. I perfunctorily echoed his words. Good, being fired is good. My indifferent attitude pierced his sensitive pride. Furious, he suddenly shoved me away. I staggered and fell to my knees just as Wu Yan walked into the ward. I ended up kowtowing right to her. A sharp pain shot through my knees. I lifted the hem of my skirt to take a look. 2 red marks stood out vividly against my fair skin. Furious, I raised my hand. I swung my arms, slapping left and Right, I clawed wildly at Gu Lin's face. He yelped in pain but was too weak to push me away because his lower body was wrapped in bandages. His wounds had not yet fully healed. Any sudden movement would tear them open. After leaving more than a dozen bloody claw marks on Gu Lin's face, I shot Wu Yan a glance. She immediately took the hint and rushed over to pull me away. Gu Lin looked like a plucked, sick chicken, his eyes full of terror as he stared at me. After that, my time spent lingering at the hospital grew shorter and shorter. My visits also became less and less frequent. 2 weeks later, I happened to stop by while out on an errand and peeked through the glass outside the hospital room. Gu Lin pulled Wu Yan, who was changing his bandages, into his arms. He even reached out to put his arm around her neck and planted a kiss on her cheek. Seeing that Wu Yan did not resist, he grew even more brazen. 11. His hand was about to slip inside her clothes. I silently took a few photos to keep as evidence, then, pretending not to have seen anything, I quickly walked away from the hospital room door. When I got home, Wu Yan sent me a progress update. Going to sleep, I replied. Got it, she added. Sis, he's been bad-mouthing you a lot lately. It makes me want to hit him with a stick. I didn't get why you were so harsh before. Now I kind of understand. This man is petty and selfish, with no sense of responsibility at all, I reminded her. Don't bother defending me, just focus on keeping up your own act. Gu Lin isn't stupid, he's more calculating than anyone this week. Just appease him, be completely obedient. If he insults me, you insult me too. You have to act like a jealous mistress who resents the legitimate wife. After a week, tell him you're pregnant and use that to push him to marry you, or else you'll abort the child. The doctor said he's infertile. Right now, what he wants most is a child. Got it, Wu Yan replied. Got it, sis. You can count on me, I'm a pro. After all, a week passed quickly. Wu Yan standing in Gu Lin's heart grew day by day. No matter what I brought up with him, he always found a way to steer the conversation back to Wu Yan. She even went so far as to suggest that I give her a raise. Honey, how much do you pay Yan a month? I think this girl is working too hard, taking care of me day and night, rushing around tirelessly. These are things you should be doing, but she's been a huge help to you. You can't treat her unfairly, I said with a teasing smile. I thought to myself, she spends her days looking after you, and then has to sleep with you at night. It's truly not easy to be treated like a beast of burden and a domestic fowl all at once. But he doesn't need to feel sorry for Wu Yan, because Wu Yan's monthly salary of 150,000 is all deducted from his assets. I had a lawyer divide the property for the fruit shop on the grounds of poor management and near closure. I sold the storefront at a low price to a trusted friend, then I had it rebranded and bought back by my parents. My friend runs it in name only. Half of the money is subsidized by me to Gu Lin, pretending it's his share of the revenue. That portion of his property was all spent on hospitalization and nursing fees. Now, little of it remains. After everything was properly arranged, Wu Yan and I discussed and staged a shocking, earth-shattering scene to catch his cheating. The night before the storm descended, I bought a pregnancy test showing 2 lines online in advance. I handed it to Wu Yan and patiently instructed, today is the day Gu Lin is discharged from the hospital. It is also the day we plan to close the net. You must bring your absolute best acting. Ideally, make such a scene that everyone knows, forcing him to have no choice but to marry you. If he disagrees, bring the drama straight to me. That way, I'll have leverage over him, and the divorce will be as good as won. She nodded quite seriously. Once everything was in place, Wu Yan and I arrived at the hospital one after the other. 12. Before leaving, I deliberately sent Gu Lin a message saying that I would come to pick him up from the hospital. He didn't reply to me for a long time. Half an hour later, I figured Wu Yan had gone to his ward and laid her cards on the table. The guilt in his message was barely concealed between the lines. Honey, a friend of mine is coming over for a business trip recently. He heard I was hospitalized and insisted on visiting me. I might need to be discharged a few hours later. Maybe don't come, I'll just take a taxi home, I replied with aham. Then I unhurriedly entered the inpatient department and went to Gu Lin's room, number 405. Inside the hospital room, Wu Yanjing was sitting in Gu Lin's arms, gently stroking her lower belly. With a sweet, happy voice, she asked, Honey, what name should we give our child? Gu Lin wrapped his arms around her and kissed her face again and again. In a doting tone, he said, Whatever you say. I never thought I'd have a child of my own in this lifetime. I told you that doctor misdiagnosed me. It was just a bump from a rock, not like it shattered. How could that possibly make me unable to have children? Wu Yan happily turned sideways and wrapped her arms around him. Then she put on a worried look. So when are you going to divorce Shuyi? The baby is getting bigger month by month. I don't want to be showing at the wedding and have people laugh at me. Gu Lin, blinded by love at that moment, he nodded in agreement with everything Wu Yan said. Divorce, get a divorce as soon As I get back, I've had it with that frumpy woman for a long time. She gives me the cold shoulder every day, and she even dares to hit me. In ancient times, a vicious woman like her would have been drowned in a pig cage. Wu Yan covered his mouth and playfully scolded him in a coquettish tone. Quick, say no, you're about to be a father. Watch your mouth for the sake of your child. Sister Shui is usually quite good to me. If it weren't for her introduction, we wouldn't have gotten together. You were the one who cheated first, so we'd better have an amicable divorce. Let's save some good fortune for our child. Gu Lin touched Wu Yan's lower belly. Fine, whatever you say. I can't be bothered to deal with that shrew anyway. If it comes to it, I'll just give her more money so she doesn't go crazy and make things difficult for us. The two were cuddling together, whispering sweet nothings to each other. I pushed the door open and walked in. I demanded loudly, how exactly am I making things difficult for you? 13, you, Mr. Gu. I ran around finding people to serve you and helped you manage the family affairs behind my back. You're having a sordid affair with the caregiver I hired for you. Is this how you repay me? Gu Lin was startled at these words, his face turning deathly pale with fright. He hemmed and hawed for a long time without finding a single word to refute. Wu Yan also widened her mouth in exaggeration, immersed in the experience of being caught in the act. At this moment, I stood on the absolute moral high ground. Even if I beat Gu Lin black and blue, he wouldn't dare fight back. But I didn't choose such an undignified way. Instead, I called both sets of parents over. When my parents rushed over, I slumped to the ground speechless, tears of helplessness streaming down my face. My hair was a tangled mess, vividly painting the picture of a deserted, downtrodden wife. Seeing this, my father whipped out his 7 wolves belt and lashed out at Gu Lin with all his might. My mother, meanwhile, grabbed him by the hair. Under this combined assault from both parents, Gu Lin decided to throw all caution to the wind. He completely abandoned any last shred of shame or moral baseline. Totally unjustified, yet utterly unrepentant, he declared, my cheating is all Mo Shui's fault, who told her to slack off and then hire such a pretty caretaker to tempt me. So what if I cheated just once? It's no big deal. My colleagues actually pay for prostitutes. When it comes to competing in who's worse, Gu Lin has always been a natural. After the mother-in-law arrived and heard Gu Lin's outrageous remarks, she also snatched my father's belt to discipline Gu Lin. But after hearing that Wu Yan was pregnant with Gu Lin's child, her attitude did a complete 180. It was wrong of my son to cheat. Since things have come to this, I think it's best for them to divorce. That way, no one has to put up with anyone else. All she cared about was having an heir. As for who bore the child, she couldn't care less. Both sides quickly reached an agreement. Gu Lin's ride-hailing car dropped the whole family right at the door of the Civil Affairs Bureau, with both parties agreeing to the divorce as a basis. I completely forgot there's a damn cooling-off period for divorce. Wu Yan urged Gu Lin from the side. I don't care. I'm moving into your house today. I've waited too long for this day. I prepared a divorce agreement for both of you. After you reach an agreement, one of you can file for divorce. This way, you avoid bickering and don't have to wait 30 days. Wu Yan truly lived up to her professional standards. She even thought of this step before I did. The property division above was very clearly written. Everything was split half and half. Gu Lin and I signed it right then and there. I filed for divorce in court, and Gu Lin responded to the lawsuit. On the day of the court hearing, the judge first asked us to try mediation on our own. Both parties refused without hesitation. After the court session began, Gu Lin was dumbfounded. 14, because I presented proof of his domestic violence, evidence of his marital infidelity, and a medical diagnosis showing he had lost the ability to procreate. I also tore up the signed prenuptial agreement in court and demanded he leave the marriage with nothing. I had prepared thoroughly before facing him, but Gu Lin was completely off guard. All he could do was present a disability certificate to try to win the judge's sympathy. In the end, I successfully obtained a divorce through litigation. However, out of humanitarian considerations, the court did not force Gu Lin to leave the marriage with nothing. It only ruled that all property be split 40-60% to me, 40% to him. Gu Lin was quite dissatisfied with the verdict and immediately stated in court that he would appeal for a second trial. He did appeal, but the local court rejected it. The original judgment of the first trial was upheld. When Gu Lin called me, Wu Yan was sarcastically taunting him. Take a look at yourself, and you still expect me to bear your child? You're so broke you can't even afford underwear. Why should I keep this bastard child? Let's break up. Don't come bothering me again. My younger brother is a karate champion. If you dare come after me, he'll punch you into the ground. A heavy door slamming sound came from the other end. I didn't want to waste my breath on Gu Lin, so I just hung up the phone. He should be sitting dejectedly on the living room sofa right now, holding his head in his hands. regretting and crying bitterly. Too bad this isn't even his most embarrassing moment yet. Half a month later, when Gu Lin was paying for instant noodles at the supermarket, unexpectedly found that my balance was insufficient. At that moment, I was lying in a glass house in the Maldives, leisurely soaking up the sun, sipping on my newly bought white wine. When I answered Gu Lin's phone call, he screamed hysterically at me. "Mo Shui, where has all my money gone? We agreed on a 60-40 split. Did you take my entire share for yourself?" I looked at the balance of over 3 million yuan in my newly opened bank card, and the fruit shop brings in over 5,000 in daily revenue. She replied with smug satisfaction. "What are you talking about, ex-husband? You spent over 500,000 in total before and after your hospitalization. I sold the fruit shop to pay for your treatment. I even left you the house to live in. What more could you possibly want?" he exclaimed in shock. "Didn't I only spend just over 300,000 on that hospitalization? Where did the over 500,000 in expenses come from? You really did secretly take an extra 100,000 or so. Give my money back right now." I picked at my fingernails and said coldly, "Do you think hiring a caregiver costs nothing? Do you think all those daily delicacies like abalone and bird's nest cost nothing? If you're so capable, go ahead and take me to court. Let's see who wins." Gu Lin had no idea that I had bought him insurance. I have saved screenshots as evidence of all the visible expenses. He definitely won't be able to find a single illegal aspect to fault. Hiring a caregiver cost 150,000, but every penny was spent on him. I didn't gain any advantage from it. Besides, he simply doesn't have the money for a lawyer to sue me. I deleted all my contact information. I moved my parents and me to a new city to live. When Gu Lin showed up at my parents' home with a cane and a knife, the surveillance camera outside the door captured him. I immediately called the police and had him sent to the station to cool off for a few days. While he was miserably eating prison food at the station, I was taking my parents on a boat trip to the open sea to try catching bluefin tuna. All the regrets and gloom left over from my previous life were swept away by the healing sea breeze and sunlight, completely gone. The end. That concludes the first story. Don't go away. The next one is even more exciting. My spouse, Li Weigua, was hospitalized with advanced cancer. On his last day, his son helped Jiang Qiuyue, silver-haired and dressed in a form-fitting cheongsam, appear at the hospital room door. My spouse clung tightly to Jiang Qiuyue's hand, tears streaming down his face, sobbing that he regretted everything. My son and daughter-in-law praised the transcendent, marriage-defying, poignant love between my husband and Jiang Qiuyue. For the media standing by on his deathbed, my husband amended his will, leaving everything to Jiang Qiuyue. My son also knelt and vowed to take care of his mother Qiuyue for the rest of her life. Even in her final years, I was literally enraged to death in the hospital. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the daily. Weigua forced me to take the fall to protect Jiang Qiuyue. This time, I voluntarily let go and applied to Military Medical University. Sister Hongxia, bad news. Li Weigua and Jiang Qiuyue sneaked into the cornfield and had an affair. The patrol caught them. You need to go and see for yourself. My cousin rushed into my house to bring the news. My mind went blank with a buzz. Suddenly I realized I had been reborn on the very day I was forced to take the fall for Jiang Qiuyue and engaged to Li Weigua. In my past life, Li Weigua and I grew up together as childhood sweethearts. Since we were young, Li Weigua told everyone that I was his future little wife. Back then, my heart was completely set on Li Weigua. I could only wait until we grew up for my sweetheart to come and marry me. But who knew? After Jiang Qiuyue was sent down to our village, Li Weigua never mentioned our engagement again. Feeling sorry for Jiang Qiuyue's frail health, he quietly credited all his work points from a hard day's labor to her name. Hearing that Jiang Qiuyue hadn't eaten meat in a long time, he immediately sold the fountain pen I had given him. Died Jiang Qiuyue to a state-run restaurant and ordered a large plate of braised pork. Later, he and Jiang Qiuyue went on a date in the cornfield and were caught red-handed by the patrol team. Seeing Jiang Qiuyue trembling with fear, Li Weigua came to my home and fell to his knees in front of me with a thud, begging me to step forward and take responsibility for this disgraceful affair. His reason was that our families had an informal engagement agreement. An unmarried young couple sneaking into a cornfield, though shameful, was not a capital offense, but Jiang Qiuyue's family had a bad class background, and if she gained a reputation for sexual misconduct, she would surely be sent to a re-education camp. At that time, I truly hated Li Weigua and Jiang Qiuyue to death, yet for the sake of Li Weigua's future and reputation, I had to step forward and admit that Jiang Qiuyue was only delivering a letter for me. The one who was actually dating Li Weigua was me. After the incident, Li Weigua and I married quickly, but because I had already sneaked into the cornfield with Li Weigua before marriage, My reputation was ruined after the college entrance examinations resumed, even though I passed the exams. Someone sent an anonymous letter to the school during the political review. I was disqualified during the political review for decades afterward. I was forced to stay in the countryside, tending to my in-laws, bearing and raising children, until my in-laws passed away and my daughter-in-law needed to begin her postpartum confinement. It was only after much reluctance that Liwegwa finally agreed to take me into the city, but by then, Liwegwa had already become a leader, and Jiang Choyue, through his arrangement, had entered the military hospital I had dreamed of. They were the glossy, glamorous city folk, while I was just a shabby old country woman. Everyone whispered behind my back, saying that the only regret in Liwegwa's life was marrying a rural woman like me, that he had missed out on Jiang Choyue, the elegant and beautiful female military doctor. But no one knew that if I hadn't taken the blame for that adulterous pair back then, both of them would have long been sent to the countryside for reform. With a disciplinary mark like that, in those days, forget college, they wouldn't even have been allowed back to the city. Thinking back on the humiliations I suffered in my previous life, and the resentment and unwillingness I felt as I lay dying, I shoved my cousin aside and ran crying all the way to the brigade headquarters. In my past life, I rushed over in a panic because I was so worried that Liwegwa would be made an example of, only to be caught by him and morally blackmailed. He coaxed and tricked me into taking the fall for him. In this life, I'm going to blow this whole thing wide open. Brigade leader, I want to report Liwegwa for adultery. Everyone in the village knew I was Liwegwa's future bride who hadn't yet crossed the threshold. When I yelled that out, the whole village came running to see the spectacle. In the cornfield, Liwegwa and Jiang Choyue were leaning against each other, close, disheveled and out of breath. When Liwegwa saw me appear, his eyes lit up, and he immediately shouted at me, "Hongxia, you need to tell them quickly that it was you who asked Choyue to invite me out. You never showed up, and Choyue accidentally fell in the cornfield. I just helped her up, and they saw it, then accused us of having an affair. Hurry and explain it clearly to everyone. Choyue and I are truly innocent." I looked at them without speaking. Jiang Choyue bit her lip and gently nudged Liwegwa. Liwegwa scolded me angrily, "Gao Hongxia, this is not the time for you to be petty or jealous. This concerns Jiang and me. Comrade Choyue's reputation is at stake. You must explain yourself immediately." Jiang Choyue looked up, her eyes red as she said to me, "Hongxia, I know Brother Wegwa takes care of me, and that makes you uncomfortable, but you can't deliberately set us up like this. You were the one who asked me to help you invite Brother Wegwa to the cornfield, and now you're playing the victim and falsely accusing us of having an illicit affair. I never expected that after being reborn, these two would still try to pin the blame on me." I gave a cold laugh and immediately exposed Liwegwa's clumsy lie. "You said I asked Jiang Choyue to invite you to the cornfield." Liwegwa gritted his teeth. "Yes," I laughed. "You were caught in the afternoon, not long after lunch, if I remember right around when we were eating. I had just told you, this afternoon, I'm going to rehearse a model opera with Chuansha and the others. Don't tell me there's another me out there, who, while I'm rehearsing the opera, can run off to the cornfields with you." The villagers who had gathered to watch burst into loud laughter. Liwegwa's fair face flushed crimson, disbelieving. He stared at me, his lips trembling as he demanded, "Hongxia, are you determined to ruin both Choyu and me? You know perfectly well that in a few days the army will be coming for political review. With things turned out like this, what am I supposed to do when they get here?" I walked up to him, swung my arm, and with a sharp crack, slapped him hard across the face. "Liwegwa, you've already sneaked into the cornfield with the landlord's daughter, and you still want to join the army. Don't even dream of it. If you like Jiang Choyue, you can call off our engagement and be with her openly and honestly, but you want to use my father, a combat hero, to get into the army, and you can't bear to let go of Jiang Choyue, that landlord's daughter. Liwegwa, with your character, you don't deserve to wear that green army uniform." Liwegwa was stunned by my slap. Jiang Choyue hugged him with a pained expression, looking at me pitifully and saying, "Sister Hongxia, Brother Wegwa is about to join the army. At such a critical moment, how could you throw mud at him like that?" Liwegwa looked at her with a moved expression. "Choyue, you're the one who understands things best." I let out a cold sneer, then suddenly reached out and grabbed Jiang Choyue's hair, yanking her hard in front of me. Jiang Choyue clutched her hair tightly, screaming in pain, "Gao Hongxia, what do you think you're doing? Let go." With one hand gripping Jiang Choyue's hair, I raised the other high and brought it down toward her delicate, porcelain-like face, slapping her again and again with a crackling sound. "I was so busy hitting him, I forgot about you. I'll teach you to set me up. I'll teach you to seduce my man. Oh, and as for that cheating bastard, I don't want him anymore. He's filthy, aren't you? Fond of picking up trash and sleeping with taken men. Here, take him, he's yours. Li Weigua finally snapped out of it and rushed over to rescue Jiang Qiuyue. By then, Jiang Qiuyue's small, palm-sized face had been swollen by my slaps into something resembling a puffy steamed bun. Seeing his beloved first love battered like this, Li Weigua shot me a look that could kill. Fierce and vicious, he roared at me, Gao Hongxia, you are nothing but an unreasonable shrew. Let me warn you, if you don't properly apologize to Qiuyue today, then call off our family's marriage engagement. I laughed. And how exactly do you want me to apologize? Li Weigua was taken aback. Then, apparently thinking he had me cornered with the marriage threat, said smugly, because you were irrationally jealous and misunderstood my relationship with Qiuyue, you caused her to suffer such a great injustice, and her reputation nearly got ruined. Here's what you'll do, go to the brigade office right now, get on the loudspeaker, and in front of the whole village, apologize to Qiuyue and clear her name. Jiang Qiuyue covered her face with her hands, sobbing as she said, Hongxia slapped my face until it looks like this. I'm afraid I won't be able to go out or see anyone for at least half a month, but if I don't work in the fields, I won't get any work points, and then I won't have food rations. Li Weigua tenderly touched Jiang Qiuyue's swollen, reddened cheek, then turned to instruct me, then for these half month's work, let Gao Hongxia do it for you. She's the one who beat you like this, so she should bear the responsibility. Besides, Qiuyu doesn't have any work points to exchange for food rations. Hongxia, go home and get 20 jin of rations to compensate Qiuyu. Jiang Qiuyu looked at him with gratitude. Weigua, you're so kind. Watching this adulterous pair openly flirting right in front of me, and thinking of the miserable life I was cheated into living by them in my previous life, I let out a cold laugh, grabbed a broom, and struck them without mercy. You say I wronged her, bullied her. Fine, I'll show you right now what bullying really means. The bamboo broom hurts like hell. One sweep leaves a trail of bloody welts. Jiang Qiuyu screamed repeatedly from my beating. Li Weigua tried to shield her, his face crisscrossed with cuts from the bamboo branches, like scratches from a cat, blood seeping from the wounds. Holding Jiang Qiuyue in his arms as he backed away, he yelled at me, Gao Hongxia, stop it. If you don't stop right now, I'll go this instant and call off the engagement with your family. Call off our engagement. I laughed and said, fine, call it off. Do it today. Whoever doesn't go through with it is a son of a bitch. After saying that, I turned to the villagers who had gathered to watch and said, aunties, uncles, and elders, today I, Gao Hongxia, hereby declare right here that my engagement to Li Weigua is officially dissolved. From this day forward, we are free to marry others, with no ties to each other. Anything concerning Li Weigua has nothing to do with the Gao family. What's the big deal about breaking off an engagement by making a big scene? What I really wanted was to stop Li Weigua from using my father's name to swindle people ever again. In my previous life, after Li Weigua joined the military, the reason he was promoted so quickly and received so much favor from his superiors was not because he was particularly capable, but because he went around telling everyone that he was the son-in-law of Gao Junsong, a combat hero. My father was wounded in battle back then, losing an eye to an artillery shell, and was forced to retire from the military, but my father still had many old comrades in arms who always remembered him. In my past life, Li Weigua used those social connections to rise rapidly through the ranks, and even leveraged my father's old comrades to get Jiang Qiuyue a job at the military hospital. Everyone thought that by helping Li Weigua, they were helping my father and me live better lives, but who would have thought that the one who would truly enjoy Li Weigua's prosperity was Jiang Qiuyue, that imposter who had taken someone else's place in this life. I'll make sure Li Weigua sees clearly that without my father's network, he can't even get out of this small mountain village. Hearing that I wanted to break off the engagement, Jiang Qiuyue secretly rejoiced, but Li Weigua's face darkened instantly. Gao Hongxia, have you had enough? I told you. My concern for Jiang Qiuyue is nothing more than comradely care. If you're still worried, once my military enlistment is settled, we'll go straight to the commune and get our marriage certificate. I raised my hand to cut off his self-righteousness. Absolutely not. You and Jiang Qiuyue have already been sneaking into the cornfield together. If I marry you, aren't I just putting a green hat on myself? The crowd burst into laughter. Li Weigua glared at me viciously. Gao Hongxia, you'd better think carefully. I'm about to join the army. If you marry me, you can follow me as a military spouse, and maybe even become a city dweller with a government food ration. If you break off the engagement now, you'll end up marrying a farmer and working the land in this village for the rest of your life. I smiled, then turned and reported to the brigade captain. Captain, Comrade Liwegwa looks down on us farming proletarians. With his level of ideological consciousness, will the army even want him? Liwegwa's face paled as he nervously looked at the team leader. He thought the team leader had always appreciated him and would surely protect him this time as well, but he forgot that the reason the team leader looked after him was because he was my father's prospective son-in-law. Sure enough, upon hearing that I was breaking off the engagement with Liwegwa, the team leader gave him a dark look and said, Liwegwa, you were clearly engaged to Gao Hongxia, yet you sneaked into the cornfield with another female comrade. Your moral and ideological conduct is corrupt, and you have brought a very bad name to our production team. Starting tomorrow, you and Jiang Chome will go to the farm to haul manure and properly reform your thinking. Upon hearing the team leader's words, Liwegwa and Jiang Chome's faces turned ashen in an instant. I smiled, then turned and walked away. In my previous life at this time, because I took the blame for Jiang Choyue, the villagers pointed fingers at me. And I stayed at home all day, crying until my face was soaked with tears. But then, out of nowhere, the health center decided to train a group of barefoot doctors to improve the village's medical standards. The brigade leader had originally wanted to recommend me, but because of that incident, I was reported and lost the chance. In the end, Jiang Choyue took my place and became a barefoot doctor later. It was precisely because of her experience as a barefoot doctor in the village that Liwegwa saw an opportunity and recommended her to the military medical academy. In this life, I will take back everything that was snatched from me in the previous one. When I got home and saw my parents, I rushed over with tearful eyes. Dad, Mom, I want to break off the engagement with Liwegwa. I told them everything, how Liwegwa and Jiang Chome had been sneaking around behind my back in the cornfield, and how after they were caught, they tried to make me take the fall for Jiang Chome. I laid it all out for my parents, sparing no detail. In my past life, I kept everything bottled up inside, which gave Liwegwa the chance to take advantage of me. In this life, I won't be so foolish as to cover for him on everything. My dad has always doted on me the most. When he heard that Liwegwa was messing around with someone else and even dared to make me take the blame, he grabbed his hunting rifle and wanted to go kill him. I quickly stopped my father. Dad, since he's throwing away a promising future to get tangled up with someone like Jiang Choyue, just let him be, just let him go. My mother was so angry she was wiping away tears. Then what are you going to do? Everyone in the village knows you and Liwegwa were together. If you break off the engagement, where are you going to find someone else anytime soon? My father said furiously. Then don't find anyone. My daughter Gao Jinsong, even if she never marries, I can still support her for life. I quickly told my parents my plan. Dad, Mom, I heard the health center is training a group of barefoot doctors, and I want to sign up. Anyway, I'm still young. I'll work as a barefoot doctor for a couple of years first. My father nodded, and the next day he sent someone to the health center to get me an application form. I was filling out the form at home when Liwegwa and Jiang Choyue walked in. Seeing the application form on the table, Liwegwa's eyes flickered before he forced a smile. Hongxia, what happened yesterday? You really misunderstood Choyue and me. I brought her here to apologize to you. Jiang Choyue came over with red-rimmed eyes. Hongxia, I'm sorry. I lied yesterday because I was too scared, but I swear to heaven, Brother Weigua and I are completely innocent. I let out a sarcastic laugh. Innocent while sneaking into the cornfield together. Jiang Choyue bit her lip and looked at Li Weigua with a pitiful expression. Li Weigua felt a pang in his heart. Without a moment's hesitation, he shielded Jiang Choyue behind him and roared at me. Gao Hongxia, if you have any issue, take it out on me. Can we leave Choyue out of the matters between us? She's already suffered enough. I was so angered by Li Weigua's utterly unprincipled favoritism that I laughed in spite of myself. She's suffered, ever since Jiang Choyue was sent down to our village. How many days has she actually worked? How much has she done? Oh, but she's eaten plenty. Braised pork from the state-run restaurant, yellow peach can from the supply and marketing cooperative, white rabbit creamy candies. Li Weigua, when you sold the gifts I gave you and used the money to take her out to eat, did you ever stop to think about who your real fiancé is? A flicker of guilt flashed in Li Weigua's eyes, but then he said with feigned confidence, how can you compare yourself to Choyu? She's never had to endure hardships like these since she was little. You grew up in the village, so just because I grew up in the countryside, I deserve to suffer. Li Weigua, Do you dare say all this to the leaders in the military? I crossed my arms and looked at him with a cold, mocking smile. Wounded by my sharp gaze, Li Weiguo lowered his head in embarrassment. Jiang Chuyue pressed her lips together and shot Li Weiguo a troubled look as if he had suffered some great humiliation. Li Weiguo stiffened his neck and said to me, "Anyway, you've wronged Qiu and me. Gao Hongxia, this is my last warning to you. Go find the battalion commander right now and make it clear to him that what happened yesterday was a misunderstanding on your part. If Chuyue ends up carrying manure to the farm for the battalion because of you, I will never forgive you." Li Weiguo, say that again. Who are you trying to warn? My father, leaning on a cane, suddenly walked in from outside. Behind him followed two men in military uniform. Seeing my father, Li Weiguo was clearly flustered. He stammered, "Jinsong, I have a misunderstanding with Hongxia and want to clear it up with her face to face. As a man, I can take some unfair treatment, but Hongxia, out of jealousy, has been slandering comrade Jiang Chuyue and damaging her reputa. This greatly damaged her reputation and even led to the brigade headquarters sending her to the farm for re-education through labor. Whether it's slander or not, we can just ask the villagers." My father interrupted Li Weiguo's defense. Just then, the villagers who had gathered to watch the scene at our doorstep began voicing their support for me. What slander? I've seen Li Weiguo and Jiang Chuyue heading to the back hill together, sneaking around. I've seen them too. They were holding hands when they came down the hill. Li Weiguo is engaged to Hongxia, but he secretly took Jiang Chuyue to a state-run restaurant, spending money that Hongxia gave him. How shameless, with everyone chipping in one remark after another. Li Weiguo and Jiang Chuyue were so humiliated they couldn't even lift their heads. Just then, my father spoke up, "Comrades, this is Li Weiguo from our village, the one who signed up to join the army. I suspect this young comrade's ideology and conduct are highly problematic. I urge the organization to scrutinize him rigorously." As soon as he finished speaking, I saw Li Weiguo's face turn pale in an instant, as if he could barely stand. Jiang Chuyue's delicate face also went white. Just moments ago, she had been clinging tightly to Li Weiguo's side. Now, without a word, she quietly put some distance between them as expected. After the two military leaders visited some villagers and village cadres in our area, they unanimously concluded that Li Weiguo was morally corrupt, had ideological and behavioral issues, and had even made remarks disparaging the proletariat, making him completely unfit for the army's recruitment standards. Li Weiguo was eliminated during the political review stage. Upon learning this news, Li Weiguo went berserk. He stormed into the educated youth settlement, grabbed Jiang Chuyue by the neck, and slapped her a dozen times in rapid succession, the sound crackling through the air. Jiang Chuyue cried so hard she could barely catch her breath, but this time, what awaited her was not Li Weiguo's gentle coaxing, but his furious roar. "Jiang Chuyue, you're nothing but a jinx, you caused your own parents' deaths, and now you've ruined me too. Didn't I tell you to hold on, to wait until I got to the army, earn some merits, and then I'd find a way for you? Why couldn't you wait? Were you that desperate to seduce me? Now it's fine, my chance to join the army has been ruined. I can't be a soldier anymore. Are you satisfied now, you bitch?" Li Weiguo grew angrier as he spoke, and his hand slowly tightened around Jiang Chuyue's neck. Jiang Chuyue's eyes rolled back as she was choked, nearly at the point of death. The other educated youths rushed over and, with much effort, pulled the two of them apart. Li Weiguo stumbled out of the educated youth's sight and, for some reason, ended up coming to my house. Seeing me walking out with my luggage, Li Weiguo dropped to his knees with a thud in front of me. He raised his hand and slapped himself, one after another, again and again. "Hongxia, I was wrong. I shouldn't have given in to temptation and been tricked by that bitch Jiang Chuyue. She saw that I was about to join the army, didn't want to endure the hardship of staying in the countryside, and wanted to go with me as a military spouse. Now I've completely seen her true colors. Hongxia, can we make up? Just say yes, and I'll bring a matchmaker to propose tomorrow." My dad kicked Li Weiguo out the door. "Too late. Weren't you the one going around bragging that my daughter wasn't good enough for you because you were about to join the army? Now I'm giving those words right back to you. My daughter is about to become a barefoot doctor, and later she can apply to medical school. Someone like you, a bad element being sent to reform through labor on a farm, do you think you're worthy of my daughter?" Li Weiguo looked up sharply, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. "What, Hongxia, you're going to become a barefoot doctor? Jinsong, uncle, could you get me a spot? Hongxia and I could go together, so we can look out for each other." "No need, I'll take good care of Sister Hongxia." A tall figure stepped in through the door. "Because I didn't take up the village quota, My father got me a spot through his connections, so in the end, the brigade captain gave that village barefoot doctor training slot to another descendant of a combat hero in the village. Zhou Emin's grandfather was a martyr who fell in the defense of Nanching. In my previous life, Li Weiguo rigged things so that the slot meant for Zhou Emin went to Jiang Qiuyue instead. In this life, I have finally returned to Zhou Emin the slot that Jiang Qiuyue had taken. Seeing the tall and handsome Zhou Emin, Li Weiguo's bloodshot eyes stared fixedly at me. So this is why you were in such a hurry to break off the engagement. You already found someone else, didn't you, Gao Hongxia? I'm giving you one last chance. Help me get a spot as a barefoot doctor, right now, otherwise, I'll report you to the health center for improper conduct, and then none of us will get to go. My father raised his walking stick in anger, ready to hit him, but I stopped him with my hand. Li Weiguo broke into a smug smile and looked at me with tender affection. Hongxia, I knew you still had me in your heart. You still do. I put down my luggage, walked up to Li Weiguo, and before he could speak, slapped him hard across the face with a sharp crack. Li Weiguo looked at me with a vicious glare. Gao Hongxia, are you sure you want to burn everything down? I rubbed my somewhat sore palm, chuckled softly, leaned close to his ear, and whispered, burn everything down. You think you're worthy, Li Weiguo. If this really goes to the commune, Comrade Zhou Emin and I are truly innocent, but what about you? Can you guarantee that you, Jiang Qiuyue, and your families are really in the clear? Think about what's buried under the pig trough in your backyard. Li Weiguo's face turned deathly pale, and he stared at me as if he'd seen a ghost. How do you know that? I let out a soft laugh. If you don't want others to know, don't do it, Li Weiguo. If you have the guts, go report us to the commune. You, go ahead, and I'll go too. Worst case, Zhou Emin and I just won't be barefoot doctors anymore. But what about you and your parents? You helped Jiang Qiuyue hide letters between her and her relatives abroad, and your parents, they helped the Jiang family hide quite a few treasures too, didn't they? With a thud, Li Weiguo collapsed onto the ground, his legs going weak and limp. I said goodbye to my parents, paid him no more attention, and left with Zhou Emin. In my past life, when I was cleaning Li Weiguo's study for him, I accidentally came across several letters between him and Jiang Qiuyue. Only later did I learn that when the Jiang family was sent to the countryside, it was Li Weiguo and his parents who secretly helped them hide many belongings. But by then Li Weiguo already held a high position, so I worried that if these letters were ever discovered, they might harm his career, and I even reminded him that he should destroy them as soon as possible. To my surprise, not only did Li Weiguo refuse to listen, he also blamed me for meddling and going through his things without permission. In hindsight, it wasn't that he couldn't bear to burn those letters. The reason he couldn't bear to burn them was clearly because those very letters were all written by Jiang Qiuyue herself. Li Weiguo could probably never have imagined that the love letters he and Jiang Qiuyue poured their hearts into in the previous life would, in this life, become the lethal weapon I would use against him and Jiang Qiuyue. Zhou Emin and I have always conducted ourselves honorably and have nothing to fear from an organizational investigation. So in this life, after arriving at the commune, the moment I reported to the health center, I went straight to the commune to report to the organization that Li Weiguo and his parents had helped Jiang Qiuyue's family hide assets. The commune leaders were outraged and immediately took people to the village to investigate. I heard that when the commune personnel arrived at the Li household, Li Weiguo and his parents had just dug up those valuables buried in the pigsty. They were caught red-handed. Later, I heard that both Li Weiguo and Jiang Qiuyue were sentenced to prison, and Li Weiguo's parents were sent to a labor farm for re-education through labor. After the verdict came down, Li Weiguo wrote me several letters from prison, asking to see me in person. I ignored him, and he actually tried to commit suicide in prison. Helpless, the prison leaders turned to the health center, and I had no choice but to go see him. At this time in my previous life, Li Weiguo had already joined the military and put on a brand new green uniform. But now, separated by an iron fence, he had a shaved head, wore a prison uniform, and had completely lost his mind. Upon seeing me, Li Weiguo lunged forward, gripping the iron fence tightly with both hands, his bloodshot eyes fixed on me. Hongxia, it's wrong, it's all wrong, we shouldn't be like this. I should have joined the army and risen through the ranks. You should have stayed in my hometown, taking care of my parents and bearing children for me. I looked at him mockingly, and then, using my father's name, you would have pulled off a switch and let Jiang Qiuyue take my spot, being a barefoot doctor, then pursuing advanced studies at a military medical university, and finally joining a military hospital, just so I could be a fairy tale couple with you. Li Weiguo was taken aback, His eyes widened in disbelief as he stared at me. Hongxia, you came back too. When did you get back? I chuckled softly. The day you and Jiang Choyue were caught sneaking into the cornfield, and you tried to make me take the fall for her. Li Weiguo's face turned pale. He muttered, no wonder. In the past life, when you heard that I'd been caught, you rushed over without a second thought and admitted it was you without even thinking, and took all the blame. I looked at him coldly. But what happened after that? I was the one who sacrificed myself to protect you and Jiang Choyue's reputation, and yet, the villagers said such awful things about me, and neither you nor Jiang Choyue said a single word in my defense. Li Weiguo painfully lowered his head. I stood up and said to him for the last time, Li Weiguo, in your past life, you resented me even until your death, resented me for occupying your wife's place, causing you to never be able to give the woman you loved a proper status your entire life. In this life, I am the one calling off the engagement willingly, to let you two be together. So why are you crying? You should be happy. I turned and left. Behind me came Li Weiguo's anguished wails. After half a year of training at the health center, Zhou Emin and I were both assigned back to our hometowns to become barefoot doctors. 2 years later, thanks to our outstanding performance, Zhou Emin and I were among the first group of barefoot doctors recommended to attend health school. We began our studies there. After graduating from health school, we were once again assigned together to the county hospital. Those years of getting along had made us even more familiar with each other. In the first year of work, Zhou Emin came to my home with a matchmaker to propose marriage. No additional content. Over these years, because I still hadn't married, quite a few people in the village gossiped, saying that my endless delays had turned me into an old unmarried girl no one wanted. No additional content. But who would have thought that I, an old unmarried woman, would end up becoming a doctor at the county hospital, and even the man I found was from the same county hospital. He was a doctor. After marrying Zhou Emin, neither of us gave up on learning. A few more years passed, and the state announced the resumption of the college entrance examination. By then, I had already given birth to our eldest son, but Zhou Emin said the opportunity was too precious to miss. Unlike Li Weiguo in my previous life, he didn't leave me alone in my hometown. Instead, he used money to hire a babysitter to help pick up, look after, and drop off our son, so I could free up time to review and prepare for the exam. Because our foundation was solid and we had never stopped learning. 2 months later, both Zhou Emin and I received our university acceptance letters. In this life, I finally fulfilled the dream I never achieved in my previous one, getting into military medical university. Zhou Emin and I decided to bring our son along to school. Before leaving, we took the child back to my parents' home. Upon returning, we discovered that Li Weiguo and Jiang Choyue had already been released from prison. However, after their release, the two were not living well. Jiang Choyue had always been pampered and spoiled. Moreover, because of her and the Jiang family, Li Weiguo not only lost his future prospects but also ended up serving several years in prison. Li Weiguo's parents hated Jiang Choyue to the bone. If it weren't for the fact that after Li Weiguo went to prison, no one else would marry him, the Li family would never have let Jiang Choyue through the door. Jiang Choyue hadn't wanted to marry Li Weiguo in the first place. What she wanted was a man who could become a military officer and give her a good life. But in this life, Li Weiguo not only failed to join the army, but also went to prison, carrying the stain of being a reformed laborer. There was no way he would ever rise above the rest, and Jiang Choyue looked down on him completely. Yet she had no choice. She had just gotten out of prison herself, and had neither a job nor even a place to stay. She could only cling tightly to Li Weiguo. After marrying, the two, each harboring their own ulterior motives, argued every few days. Li Weiguo cursed Jiang Choyue as a jinx, saying she had ruined his future and his chance at a good marriage. Jiang Choyue accused him of daring to act but not daring to take responsibility, wanting to date her, yet unwilling to give up the benefits my family could offer him. The day my husband Zhou Emin and I brought the kids back to my parents' home happened to coincide with a huge scene unfolding at Li Weiguo's house. Unable to bear the harsh life in the village any longer, Jiang Choyue hooked up with a long-haul truck driver, made off with the last of the Li family's money and planned to elope with him. But Li Weiguo found out halfway. He followed them all the way to the village entrance, and when he saw Jiang Choyue and the truck driver embracing, he grabbed an axe and swung it at them. The axe nearly cut through half of Jiang Choyue's neck, and blood sprayed all over the ground. The truck driver lost an arm to Li Weiguo's axe. The villagers knew that Zhou Emin and I were both doctors, so after subduing Li Weiguo, they quickly called us over to save the injured. By the time Zhou Emin and I arrived, Jiang Choyue had already stopped breathing. The truck driver lost too much blood. after being taken to the hospital, his life was saved, but he lost an arm and could no longer drive heavy trucks. Liwegwa was quickly sentenced to death for murder. Before his execution, Liwegwa's parents came to our home, hoping he could see me one last time, but by then, Jo Amin and I had already reported to the military medical university. In this life, I have a like-minded partner and a pair of filial and sensible children. After I stopped interfering in the destinies of others, I finally found my own happiness. Story 2. My boyfriend made his debut and became a big star. He's so popular that he doesn't even have time to see me. So, just like his fans, I learned about his new relationship from the trend. I wanted to ask him face to face, but accidentally heard him say to someone, "Don't you think Anna is a bit out of my league now?" I'm Anna, his civilian girlfriend of 10 years. I wasn't angry. Instead, I immediately dialed a number. "Mr. Lambert, you once said we had an arranged childhood betrothal. Does it still count?" In the 10th year of our relationship, I saw Calvin's new relationship on the trend. He was hugging a young girl. They were very intimate, with an ambiguous look in their eyes. That night, I went to the private room to confront Calvin. Before I even entered, I could hear the lively chatter inside. "Kiss, kiss, big star, I bet's a bet, hurry up," Calvin said with a smile. "You'll scare Evelyn." The girl beside him blushed shyly. I recognized her. She was the female lead in those scandal photos. The girl said, "Anna will be angry if she knows." "Why do you care about her?" "Yeah, it's just a game. She can't be so petty." "Then you all have to testify for me." The girl bit one end of a pocky stick coyly. Calvin bit the other end. The jeers grew louder. They were about to kiss. I pushed open the door of the private room. The atmosphere froze instantly. The girl named Evelyn turned pale. "Anna, don't misunderstand. We were just playing truth or dare." "Oh," I replied coldly. Calvin's face darkened. "What are you doing here?" "My boyfriend organized this gathering. Why can't I come?" "We don't bring girlfriends to this party." No wonder there was only Evelyn as the only girl here. No girlfriends allowed, but she was an exception. "Calvin, Anna must be here to ask about the photos. Hurry up and explain it to her." Evelyn shook Calvin's arm, looking so innocent and wronged. Calvin turned his face away. "There's nothing to explain, Anna. The photo was a misunderstanding. Just a bad angle. You're his real girlfriend. I won't steal him from you. Please don't quarrel because of this." I smiled without saying a word. The girl was very pretty, full of youthful vitality. She was very much like me when I first got together with Calvin at the age of 20. Calvin and I got together in our junior year of college. When we graduated in our senior year, he was scouted by a talent agent and suddenly made his debut. His journey to stardom wasn't smooth at first. We squeezed into a tiny rental apartment. I worked to earn money and support his music dream. Hard work pays off. After 6 or 7 years of being obscure, Calvin's single finally made it to the hot charts. That day, Calvin hugged me and said, "Anna, I must become famous, make a lot of money, and give you a better life." We promised to get married when we were 30. Later, he became more and more popular. He stood on bigger stages and enjoyed the adoration of more people, but the distance between us grew wider. I still remember a quarrel half a year ago. Calvin suddenly blurted out, "Anna, I'm a celebrity. Don't always judge me by the standards of ordinary people." I was stunned for a long time. This high and mighty Calvin seemed like a stranger to me. Now, I'm less than a month away from turning 30 and there's a new girl beside Calvin. Calvin picked a love duet. He handed the microphone to Evelyn. Evelyn pretended to decline. "Anna, you should sing it." I shook my head. "I'm not a good singer." Calvin also said, "Don't let her sing, she's tone deaf." "Do you want to be tortured?" Evelyn stuck out her tongue and happily took the microphone. She had a beautiful voice, light and pure, exactly the type of female voice Calvin liked the most. I didn't stay to listen and went to the toilet. When I came back after killing some time, the duet was over. The door of the private room was ajar. "Calvin, what's going on between you and sister-in-law?" someone suddenly asked. "Nothing." Calvin took a puff of his cigarette and said calmly, "Don't you think Anna is a bit beneath me now?" I stopped at the door, listening quietly. "Anna has been acting strange lately. She said she doesn't want to be my assistant anymore and wants to find a job on her own." Calvin gave a faint, mocking smile. "At her age of 30, what kind of good job can she find?" Evelyn was surprised. "She doesn't even want to be your assistant." I'm not saying this to be mean, but Anna is being a bit ungrateful. It was kind of funny. Calvin probably forgot. Back then, he begged me to be his assistant when he was at the height of his popularity. He was hit with a lot of negative rumors, so he became paranoid and didn't trust anyone. He pleaded with me to quit my job at the film company and stay by his side. He said he only trusted me. Now that Calvin's position is stable, what's wrong with me wanting to return to the workplace? Their conversation continued. "Calvin, so what are you going to do now?" Break up? Really? You two have been together for 10 years. Only by breaking up can I teach Anna a lesson. Calvin was determined. One of his buddies muttered, "Can you really break up?" "I doubt it," another buddy chimed in. "With Anna's loyalty, breaking up will be a huge ordeal." Calvin also rubbed his temples. "Tell me about it." At a loss, Evelyn spoke up. "In my opinion, just tell her directly." "No, she'll break down." "That's even better. The more hysterical she is, the more it shows she has an unstable temperament." Everyone was shocked. "Can we do that? And don't worry about her spilling the beans outside." Evelyn gave a sly smile. "When Calvin breaks up with her, I'll secretly record it and capture the scene of her going crazy, even if she talks nonsense later. We have the video as evidence that it's not Calvin's fault but that she has a terrible temper." This was a rather vicious move. Everyone fell silent. Evelyn didn't seem to notice. "Give it a try. There's no harm. Just think of it as a rehearsal." Calvin hesitated for a moment and finally nodded. "Fine, let's try. But I bet she won't agree." The plan was set. The hidden cameras were set up, just waiting for me, the main character, to arrive. I was obliging. After they got everything ready, I finally showed up. Calvin cleared his throat. "Anna, there's something I want to tell you." "What is it?" "Let's break up. I've been so tired lately, having to rush to enunciate, and also, everyone was waiting for my reaction." The smug smile on Evelyn's face was almost impossible to hide, but I just interrupted his explanation and said calmly, "Okay." Calvin was immediately stunned. The others were also surprised. "Sister-in-law, did you hear clearly?" Calvin said, "Break up." "I heard clearly. My ears are fine." "Then why did you agree? Isn't it what he wants?" "What's wrong with that?" "You." Calvin's face was ugly. "You're not going to refuse." "Refuse what?" I looked puzzled. "You proposed." "I agreed." "Isn't that exactly what you wanted?" Calvin frowned. "Anna, I know you're putting on a brave face. Can you really just let go of our 10-year relationship like this?" "Yes." I put on my coat and left without looking back. "I'm leaving. Goodbye." Calvin was stunned for a moment. He seemed to sense how resolute that goodbye was. But he wasn't reconciled and still said coldly to my back, "You'll regret it." "Really? There won't be that day. I'll cut off all my escape routes and not give myself a chance to regret." The night wind was cold, making me even more sober. I wiped away my tears and dialed a number. "Mr. Lambert." "Hello," I asked calmly. "You once said we had an arranged childhood betrothal. Does it still count? To be precise, it was more like entrusting me to someone's care. Before my parents passed away, they verbally arranged this betrothal for me. Unfortunately, right after they died, I was taken south by my relatives and lost contact with the family. I heard they had been looking for me for a long time. Finally, they got in touch with me 3 years ago, but at that time, I was completely devoted to Calvin. I resisted this marriage arrangement, and I wasn't very nice to Lambert either. Now, I had the nerve to bring it up again." There was a low chuckle from the other end of the phone. "Did you break up?" Lambert's voice was lazy but incredibly pleasant to the ear. "Yeah, we did. You only thought of me after the breakup. Am I just your backup?" "That's not what I meant, Anna. It was you who said that you'd only marry your boyfriend and told me to forget about the arranged marriage." "That was true." I looked at the sky in embarrassment, finding it hard to defend myself. "So, I just decided to go all in and said, I was cheated on." The breakup was really ugly. I was toyed with like a clown. I can't swallow this, so I want to find someone new too. I admit I'm being impulsive. You can ignore me or laugh at me, whatever. After this outburst, I thought Lambert would hang up, but he was silent for a moment and then asked, "Have you been crying?" His tone was full of helplessness. "Why are you crying?" "I didn't say I wouldn't help you. Come on, tell me what you want." "I want to get married right away." "Is that possible?" "Sure." Lambert's voice was tinged with laughter, sending an electric current through the line. "But I won't accept a sexless marriage, you know." I was taken aback. "You mean we have to be a real couple?" "Yes." Lambert was rather considerate. "If you can't accept it, just pretend you never made this call tonight. I'll keep it a secret." "I accept." Lambert sounded surprised. "We've broken up. I'm not going to be a widow for that scumbag." "Right, but words alone won't do." The end of Lambert's words dissolved into ambiguous syllables over the phone. "I've sent you my address. Let me see how determined you are." This was the first time I met Lambert. Before this, we'd only talked on the phone. Since I resisted the marriage arrangement, there was no need to meet him. Unexpectedly, Lambert was far more handsome than I'd expected. I used to think Calvin was stunning, but Lambert was even more attractive. He was wearing a dark sweater, tall and straight, with well-defined features that were more handsome than any male celebrity I'd ever seen. The important thing was, his face seemed so familiar. I'd been standing at the door for too long. "Do you want me to carry you in?" Lambert asked. I quickly stepped inside. No matter how determined I sounded on the phone, it was still a bit embarrassing to face him in person. Lambert was sitting on the sofa, seemingly waiting for me to make the first move. When nothing happened for a while, he said, "I knew you." I silenced him with a rough kiss. I kissed so fiercely, as if that was the only way to hide my nervousness. I bit Lambert's lip. He laughed in anger. "You're really something." Then, he pinched my chin and took the initiative. The smell of blood lingered between us. Gradually, I realized that Lambert was calming me down. My nervousness subsided, but my heart was still pounding abnormally. The heating was on in the room, and I felt all hot. My hands started to wander restlessly over his body. Lambert was holding back. "Anna, are you really sure about this?" "Yes, I'll give you one last chance to back out." I didn't answer but directly unbuckled his belt. It was obvious that Lambert was really pent up. I asked, "What about you? Are you ready to be used by me?" Lambert kissed me. "Come on, sit on top, I'll let you use me." Lambert was like a leopard, full of energy. What surprised me more was that he was very considerate of my feelings. In the 10 years I was with Calvin, no night was more pleasurable than this one, so this was what it felt like to be pleased. Before falling asleep, a question popped into my head. Why did my parents entrust me to Lambert? They loved me deeply and would never harm me. So, Lambert must have been the best choice after their strict consideration. I only slept for a few hours. As soon as the Civil Affairs Bureau opened, Lambert and I got our marriage certificates. The little red book was so light, it was like the last gift from my parents. "I have to go on a business trip this afternoon and will be back in a week," Lambert told me. "It's okay, you're busy. Don't force yourself." "Anna, are you overthinking?" Lambert gently flicked my forehead. "I'm not avoiding you. I really have to go on a business trip, but I'll video call you every day. I won't leave you bored." I thought the video calls were just normal calls, but in the following week, every time I heard the video call ringtone, my legs went weak. Lambert knew exactly how to tease me. Just through words and gestures on the screen, he could make me surrender. On the last day, I was slumped in the chair, holding my phone, trying to catch my breath. Suddenly, a text message came in. "Anna, can Auntie see you?" It was from Calvin's mom. I suddenly realized that I'd almost forgotten about Calvin these days because of Lambert. He occupied all my free time, leaving me no time to miss anyone else. Was it on purpose? It seemed like he was helping me get over the pain of the breakup. I went to see Calvin's mom. To be honest, his parents had been very nice to me before. The breakup wasn't their fault. This time, I wanted to thank them for taking care of me and return the bracelet. Last year, to urge us to get married soon, Calvin's mother gave me her most precious jewelry. After clearing things up and returning the item, I left the Calvin family home feeling relaxed. When I reached the door, I suddenly bumped into Calvin and Evelyn. Calvin's eyes lit up at once, but his expression turned colder. "What are you doing at my home?" "Nothing." Evelyn's face turned pale. "Anna, you regret it, don't you? You came to tell Calvin's parents and get them to drive me away." "No, Anna, please, I'm begging you." Evelyn burst into tears. "Please don't say anything bad about me in front of the elders. I've been so depressed lately." Although the photo of Calvin had been clarified, there were still rumors. Calvin's mother had heard some of them, so she didn't have a good attitude towards Evelyn. "I didn't mention you at all. Stop imagining things." I walked past her, but Calvin stopped me. "You really didn't complain to my parents?" "I'm not that idle." Calvin tried to find a trace of longing and reluctance on my face but failed. He gritted his teeth and said, "Anna, it's useless to complain to anyone. I won't let Evelyn go. She's already my new assistant." "Congratulations." My indifferent tone completely enraged Calvin. "How long do you plan to keep up this pretense?" I paused slightly and said calmly, "Calvin, I'm married." Calvin didn't believe it. "Such a lame lie won't fool me." I showed him my ring. "I just got the certificate a few days ago. This is the diamond ring my husband gave me." Husband, somehow, that word got to him. Calvin suddenly became furious and blurted out, "You're 30, unemployed, with no income, who would want you?" "Anna, when did you become such a lying old hag? I was right to break up with you." I fell silent all of a sudden. I didn't say another word. My silence made Calvin come to his senses. He realized what he'd said and showed a hint of regret in his eyes. In the afternoon, a college classmate messaged me, "What happened between you and Calvin today? He's asking people to find you now, saying he wants to apologize." Oh well, I knew it. After 10 years together, it's not that easy to break up. Calvin was always like this. After every quarrel, he'd bribe my friends to persuade me This time, I turned off my phone and ignored everyone's messages. In the evening, Lambert got home. The moment he opened the door, my empty heart seemed to have found a home. I went to greet him actively, so enthusiastic. Lambert was smiling at first, but when he saw my slightly red eyes, his expression immediately turned cold. Tell your husband, who bullied you, over the past week. I'd almost gotten used to the name husband. During the video calls, Lambert always asked me to call him that. He liked it a lot. Strangely enough, in these few days, even though we were in different places and only communicating via video calls, we seemed closer than before. In the bedroom, the ambient light was extremely great. When I couldn't bear it any longer, Lambert deliberately stopped. Who am I? Lambert. Wrong. Husband. Lambert was satisfied. As a result, my voice became even more broken. When he finally let me go, I was exhausted. Anna, Lambert kissed my forehead. If you run into trouble, tell me first. I'm your husband, and I'll always be on your side. I was touched but still didn't say anything. I didn't really want to talk to Lambert about Calvin. He was an ex, and talking about him was just a waste of breath. Seeing that I was silent, Lambert didn't press further. He changed the topic. Do you have enough money? Yes, you gave me too much. I can't spend $1 million. That's just the living expenses for the next 2 months. Don't save on my account. It's too extravagant, I murmured. Lambert smiled. Since I learned about the arranged marriage, I knew that I'd work hard to earn money all my life so that you could spend it to your heart's content. Lambert, why are you so nice to me? I asked the question that had been on my mind for a long time. We have no emotional foundation. You're just fulfilling the family's request by going through with the marriage. It doesn't make sense. Guess. I was sleepy and mumbled. Because my parents were kind to your family, you want to repay the favor through me. Anyway, it can't be because you like me. I closed my eyes and fell asleep instantly. So, I didn't hear Lambert's final answer. Who says I don't like? I found a new job at a video website. At the same time, Lambert and I planned to hold a makeup wedding. I picked out several wedding dresses and sent them to a small group, asking my friends to give me some opinions. Subsequently, the news of my wedding preparations spread like wildfire. Since Lambert and I got married on a whim and didn't make a public announcement, some old friends thought I was going to marry Calvin. Calvin probably got wind of it too. Half a month later, he came to our company to record a show, with Evelyn in tow. The moment Evelyn saw me, her eyes turned as red as a rabbit's. Anna, I really feel so sorry for you. After breaking up with Calvin, you're so sad that you're even lying about getting married, I said expressionlessly. I am having a wedding, but the groom is someone else. Calvin sneered. You've been lying so much that you even believe it yourself. I couldn't be bothered to talk to them. Just then, Lambert called. I went to a corner to answer it. He asked a few casual questions, like what I was having for lunch and what time I got off work. When hanging up, I said, "Bye, hubby." Turning around, I saw Calvin standing not far away. Anna, you're really putting on a full show. What? Who are you getting to play your husband? Do I know him? His tone and expression were extremely indifferent, as if he was just asking casually. But the bloodshot eyes betrayed his unease. I didn't want to waste words on him at all, but he stopped me from leaving. Anna, just say something soft, and it's not too late. Anything will do. As long as you say it, I'll cooperate with you for that wedding. You're crazy. What about Evelyn? Does she know you're acting like this? I'm not with her. She has no right to interfere. That's a pity. You two seemed well suited. Calvin frowned tightly. He noticed that I wasn't angry or sad. That was the scariest thing. I was too calm, as if I had truly moved on. But soon, Calvin convinced himself, after 10 years together, no one can let go easily. Anna, without my cooperation, how long can you keep up this act? I went back to my seat. A colleague beside me whispered, "Do you know Calvin?" "No. I saw you two come out one after another with bad expressions. Let me warn you, don't mess with him." "Why?" "He's the one that Mr. Lambert of Wish Entertainment personally promotes," as my colleague gossiped. My thoughts drifted away. Lambert said he'd cook dinner tonight. I wondered how his spare ribs would turn out. "Do you know Mr. Lambert?" "It's normal if you haven't heard of him. He's very mysterious and rarely shows up, but he's the top boss lurking behind Wish Entertainment." Why does everyone in the circle give Calvin some face now? Because Calvin's sudden rise to fame was personally approved by Mr. Lambert. Anna, what does your husband do? I snapped back to reality. He runs a company. A small business, I guess. Actually, I wasn't sure. Lambert once compiled the documents of his properties and gave them to me. He said I could pick one I liked and be a hands-off boss, but the shadow of being Calvin's assistant still haunted me. I didn't want to live a life where I worked for my partner and lost myself again, so I instinctively resisted. I still hadn't opened those documents. Today's show was recorded until 7 o'clock. Everyone had left work, but Calvin was still there. Calvin's mother and Uncle Calvin arrived. They were chatting, and I didn't pay much attention. If I had gotten closer, I would have heard that I was the main topic of their conversation. After work, Calvin saw his parents. Evelyn stepped forward actively. "Hello, Uncle and Aunt." Calvin's mother glanced at her and ignored her. Evelyn felt awkward but still tried to flatter. "Aunt, you're so beautiful. Calvin often mentions you, and now that I see you." "Shut up," Calvin's mother interrupted her rudely. Evelyn was wronged and wanted Calvin to back her up, but she found that Calvin wasn't even looking at her. He seemed out of sorts today, and the recording was also lackluster. Calvin's mother said, "Evelyn, since you're recording a show near home, come home for dinner tonight." "Okay." Evelyn looked expectant, but no one invited her. Even Calvin said, "You can go now." Evelyn was unwilling but left anyway. As soon as she left, Calvin said, "Mom, I want to invite Anna." I thought Calvin's mother would be very supportive, but unexpectedly, her face sank at once. "You still have the nerve to mention Anna. Have you forgotten? You were the one who drove her away. Anna has given up on you. Don't bother that nice girl anymore." "Impossible," Calvin was certain. "I've been with her for 10 years. I know her well. She's probably waiting for me to give in. This is the perfect opportunity." With that, he started looking for Anna. Calvin's mother couldn't bear it anymore and slapped him. "Wake up." "Anna returned the bracelet to me." Calvin was like he'd been hit with a sledgehammer. "Which bracelet?" "The one I gave her. The family heirloom for the daughter-in-law." The next day at work, I ran into Calvin again. He didn't look right. He was haggard, and his face was sickly pale. I was about to pretend I didn't see him when Calvin suddenly grabbed me and pulled me to a secluded corner. "What's up?" I asked impatiently. "I went to your place last night." He tried to sound calm, but the trembling tone betrayed his anxiety. "I had a small apartment of dozens of square meters in this city, but after marrying Lambert, I moved to his place." "You weren't home." "I waited at the door all night, but you never came back." "Where did you spend the night?" "At my new home." "Any problem?" Calvin's breathing was unsteady. "With who?" "With my newlywed husband." This time, I was unusually patient and explained carefully. "Before my parents died, they verbally arranged a marriage for me. After breaking up with you, I immediately fulfilled it." Calvin didn't listen further. He suddenly grabbed my wrist and roughly put something on my hand. "It was that bracelet." "This is your bracelet, Anna. Don't leave it behind. It can only belong to you." Calvin muttered like a madman. "You don't like Evelyn. I'll get rid of her today. Don't be with someone else. Please, let's make up right now." "Okay." During the tussle, the jade bracelet fell to the ground and broke into 2 pieces. Calvin was stunned. A broken bracelet can never be restored to its original state. Just like us. When I pushed Calvin away, I saw Evelyn standing in the corner. She must have been listening for a while. Today was the last day of recording. All the guests had arrived, and the studio was lively. My colleagues were gossiping. They said that Mr. Lambert of Wish Entertainment would also show up today. I was busy sorting out materials and didn't listen carefully. Calvin arrived late just before the shooting started. His complexion had calmed down a bit, as if nothing unpleasant had happened earlier. Soon, I knew why. Evelyn sidled up to me and said casually. I cheered Calvin up. No one cared. "Do you know how I did it?" "I told him that even if you got married, it was just to spite him. You just randomly married someone and would regret it soon." "Really?" Thinking of Lambert, last night, not only was I full from the spare ribs, but I was also satisfied in other ways. I was even a bit regretful. Why didn't I fulfill the marriage agreement earlier? "I'm right, aren't I?" Evelyn said provocatively. "You just found a useless man. After all, you're not young anymore. Your most precious 10 years are already gone." Hearing this, I finally looked up. Every decade of my life is precious. Even if I'm not young anymore, in the next 10 or 20 years, I'll still be precious. Evelyn was left speechless. Finally, she said disdainfully, "Let's see how long you can keep this up." The shooting that day went quite smoothly. The accident happened at the end. Evelyn's ring was missing. She said it was her favorite and most precious ring. She searched everywhere but found nothing. Evelyn cried sadly. "I'm really sorry, everyone. Could you spare a little time to check yourselves?" The workers didn't want to get involved, but they had no choice. Behind her was Calvin, and behind Calvin was Mr. Lambert. Mr. Lambert of Wish Entertainment was said to be chatting with the senior management upstairs at the moment, so everyone opened their pockets and backpacks one by one. When it was my turn, Evelyn stared at me Closely, I had a bad feeling. As I turned my pocket inside out, the ring rolled out, glittering. Evelyn's scream almost lifted the roof. It was you. You stole my ring. I narrowed my eyes. When did she set up this trap? She must have slipped the ring into my pocket while chatting with me just now, I said. I never touched your ring. Are you deliberately framing me? Anna, you have to be fair. Why would I frame you? What's the reason? You should ask yourself. Everyone was caught in the middle. Looking at each other. Unfortunately, there was no surveillance in that area, so I couldn't prove my innocence. Evelyn insisted that I was the thief. She called the police. Calvin tried to persuade her. Forget it. There might be some misunderstanding. Calvin, you can't be so partial. Evelyn cried. I just want justice for myself. What did I do wrong? Also, your platform hired someone with moral problems. Aren't you afraid of potential risks? Fortunately, I found out today, during this time. She had made a few girlfriends in the team, most of them used to have issues with me. They echoed, if she dares to steal a ring today, she'll dare to steal other things tomorrow. She must be severely punished. With more people echoing, the atmosphere changed. Everyone looked at me with suspicion and wariness. I was isolated in the middle of the crowd. Those strange eyes were like a cold sea, drowning me. Evelyn grew more confident and said harshly, I'd like to see who can take you away. Today, just then, the door on the second floor opened. The senior management finished chatting and walked out. I saw the familiar figure. I was a bit confused. Why was he here? Before I could figure it out, Lambert had already spoken. What if I want to take her away? Everyone who knew his identity exclaimed in unison, Mr. Lambert. Calvin also became extremely respectful. Lambert ignored everyone. He walked straight to me and then, in full view of everyone, naturally held my hand. Anna is my wife. We got our marriage certificate last month. So, he glanced at Evelyn, his tone cold and indifferent. Why would my wife steal your ring? He emphasized the words, my wife. No one dared to answer. Lambert then turned to look at the senior management. What do you think? Does my wife, Mrs. Sure, need your ring? The senior management was tactful. The diamond ring on your wife's hand looks familiar. Is it the Tears of the Moon Goddess that you bought for $5 million at the auction? So it's the Tears of the Moon Goddess. It's an honor to see it in person. Indeed, it's incomparable to an ordinary ring. Evelyn was already frozen. She forced a smile that was uglier than crying. Maybe I misunderstood Anna. Whether it's a misunderstanding or not, we'll find out after an investigation. Lambert said gently to the staff, check the footage shot today. It was fine if they didn't check. Once they did, they really found the relevant recording. A camera responsible for capturing behind-the-scenes footage happened to capture this scene while panning around the venue. In the corner, Evelyn quietly slipped the ring into my pocket. The truth came to light. Evelyn begged me to forgive her, but it was too late. The police she called ended up taking her away instead. Calvin was also frozen in place. After the crowd dispersed, he chased after us to the parking lot, only to be stopped by Lambert. Do you have something to do with my wife? Calvin bit his lip, his face ashen. He had thought of countless possibilities. That Anna had married someone on a whim out of spite and would come back to him once she calmed down, but it never occurred to Calvin that the man would be Lambert. A terrifying thought emerged. Perhaps Anna was serious about this marriage. Calvin longed for an answer. However, Anna didn't even spare him a glance. She whispered to Lambert, I have a lot of questions to ask you when we get home. Lambert lowered his eyes meekly. Okay, you can interrogate me all you want. Calvin's heart lurched. Anna was acting coquettish. He was all too familiar with this tone. In the past, she used to talk to him like this too. Lambert straightened up and looked at him again. We're having our wedding next month. You're welcome to come. Calvin stood rooted to the spot for a long time. At this moment, the intense pain in his heart finally made him realize that the girl he had been in love with for 10 years had become someone else's wife. I didn't dwell on Lambert's identity. It was my fault. If I had opened the documents he gave me earlier, I wouldn't have just found out now. I asked Lambert why he didn't tell me on his own initiative. Lambert said, given my connection with Calvin, once you knew, you might have left right away. That was true. When we broke up, I didn't even want to see Calvin's name. I got off work early on Friday and went to Wish Entertainment to wait for Lambert to go home together. The door of the president's office wasn't fully closed. I saw Lambert, several executives, and Calvin inside. Lambert said, your assistant Evelyn has seriously damaged the company's image. Calvin looked ashen. I didn't know she was that kind of person. I've never interfered in your team, but she was brought in by you. If something goes wrong, who takes the responsibility? Lambert looked gentle and laid back, but anyone could see the coldness in his smile. Let's do this. Suspend all your work until you've reflected clearly. In other words, he was going to shelve Calvin in. Executive beside him tried to persuade, Mr. Lambert, you've invested a lot of money in Calvin, shelving him now will cost the company a fortune every year, spending a bit of money to make my wife happy is worth it. I was slightly stunned. These days, I had been trying my best to avoid talking about Calvin with Lambert, precisely because I didn't want to interfere in his decisions. Promoting an artist involves complex interests and isn't something that can be given up easily. I always thought that Lambert would turn a blind eye too. I never expected that he would really shelve Calvin for me. Calvin was unwilling. Mr. Lambert, can you give me one more chance? I've given you enough chances. Lambert spun his chair, looking nonchalant. Do you know why the company chose you that year? Calvin shook his head blankly. Just because you were Anna's boyfriend. I poured resources into you and made you famous, hoping to make her happy and that you could give her a better life. Lambert lowered his eyes slightly and said calmly, without Anna, you're nothing. I stood outside the door, covering my mouth in shock. The year Calvin became famous happened to be when the Schur family found me. Lambert called and introduced himself, but I shut him down. I said that I only had Calvin in my heart and was planning to get married. I'd also refused the financial aid he offered, because once I took the money, I couldn't hide the arranged marriage. I didn't want to make my boyfriend uneasy. I only asked Lambert to forget the agreement and draw a clear line. After listening, Lambert was silent for a long time. Finally, he said, then I wish you happiness. And then he hung up. Subsequently, Calvin was suddenly scouted by Wish Entertainment and signed. Resources poured down on him like snowflakes. So, at that time, Lambert was trying to pave the way for me. I found it incredible. I was dazed until their meeting ended. Lambert walked over, patted my head, and asked, what are you thinking about? When he faced me, he was so gentle, completely different from the domineering aura he had just shown. I said, your family does a great job with gratitude education. Gratitude education, yeah, from the first phone call, you've been thinking about how to repay me. Repay? Lambert stopped in his tracks, frowning at me. Anna, I don't have gratitude towards you. It's all romantic love, yeah, to repay my parents and so on. What did you say? I said romantic love, the kind of very grown-up feeling where I want to possess you all the time. I reached out to cover his mouth. The executives hadn't gone far yet. I pushed him into the office and locked the door. Seeing how nervous I was, Lambert said, it seems you don't remember that we were neighbors when we were kids at all. A memory suddenly flashed through my mind like lightning. It was the summer vacation of the 3rd grade. The chubby boy next door was solitary and had no friends. His parents didn't care about him either, so I often invited him to have dinner and do homework together. The reason the chubby boy was solitary was that his classmates at school liked to tease him about his size and called him Fat Pig. Only I was willing to play with him, and only I never laughed at him for being fat. That summer, the chubby boy became my little shadow. However, before the summer vacation ended, his whole family moved abroad. His parents' business was booming, so they went to expand overseas markets. In those days, kids didn't have cell phones. And I also changed schools and moved several times, so we gradually lost contact. Besides, Lambert didn't have this name back then. He changed it when he grew up. I looked at the man in front of me. He was 188 meters tall, with a tall and straight frame and a handsome face. Who would have associated him with that chubby kid back then? When did you lose weight? After junior high school. I didn't go on a diet on purpose. I just gradually got thinner. Lambert looked contentedly at my shocked expression. What happened next? I asked. Later, when I learned that my arranged marriage partner was you, I immediately returned to China, starting a business while looking for you. Unfortunately, your aunt took you to Guangzhou, and no one in my family knew your aunt. It was years later when he finally found me. On New Year's Eve, Lambert called me, but I told him that I loved Calvin deeply. That night, Lambert sat alone by the window, watching the fireworks and the snowfall. His heart felt empty, and he didn't know how to fill it, so he found Calvin, a down-and-out singer, signed him, and made him famous. And we all know what happened next. Lambert also told me one last thing. He never felt humble, because on the day Calvin first stood on the podium to receive an award, he was there too. I saw you smiling happily from afar. I thought it was all worth it. I responded to Lambert's kiss, our lips tangling. The temperature in the office seemed to be rising steadily, as we kissed. Something hot pressed against my leg. Lambert's suit wasn't the least bit ruffled, neither was mine, only under my skirt. Lambert's hand was hidden, my calf unconsciously swayed, brushing against his dark suit pants. Dark colors were good, they concealed all the traces of our intimacy. Let's go home. I gently pushed him, but the words died on my lips. Lambert lifted me onto the desk and crouched down. I bit my lip hard, not daring to make a sound. Later, my clothes got dirty. Lambert took out a new set, with the tag still on. Did you prepare for this day long ago? I teased. Lambert kissed me unsatisfiedly. Believe it or not, there's another set in the car. There was indeed another set in his car. Don't ask me how I knew. Half a month later, my wedding with Lambert was held as scheduled. I seemed to see Calvin. He had no job and was in a difficult situation. He didn't dare to come closer, only taking a distant look at me. Perhaps he was thinking that it should have been him standing there. Perhaps he was thinking that we used to be so close. How did we end up going our separate ways? 10 years was like a dream. Now, the dream had ended. I will step forward, firmly walking towards a better future. The end.